Today I'm going to take you through a fun and simple Season 1 Necromancer leveling build that is focused on minions and shadow damage. This build will be able to take you from level 1 all the way to level 50 and help you complete the first capstone dungeon to unlock World Tier 3. First, I'll be going through all the skills and gameplay mechanics, and at the end of this video I'll also go through the aspects you'll want to unlock in your Codex of Power and some other ones to keep an eye out for on your loot. Now, going through the skill bar, the core skill that I'm using here is Sever. Now I've taken the modifiers on this skill that damages enemies along its path for 40% of its initial damage, and then the second modifier is that every third cast makes enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. So this will be your main damage skill on your bar that will pair well with the other skills. For the basic skill, I'm using Decomposed, with the first modifier meaning I gain 10 essence if an enemy dies while being decomposed, and the second one being that me and my minions deal 10% increased damage. Now this helps out with essence regeneration and also assists us with generating corpses for other skills while providing a damage buff. The next skill I have is Corpse Tendrils, which you'll be using on corpse to slow and pull in enemies to group them together while also applying vulnerable. This is then paired with the other corpse skill I have on my bar, which is Corpse Explosion. Now when used on corpse, this skill will explode the corpse, releasing a miasma which deals shadow damage over 10 seconds. This skill is converted to shadow damage over time by selecting the Blighted Corpse Explosion upgrade. Now we're going to make the most of these two corpse skills by pairing them with the Sacrilegious Heart, which when walking near a corpse, it will automatically activate and equip corpse skill every second, dealing 40 to 30% reduced damage. So this is going to continually proc for us in battle and be a key part of getting the best out of this build, because while you're walking next to corpses, this is going to continually proc for you without you having to manually use the skill. The last two skills on my bar are Raise Skeleton to ensure I can raise my warriors and mages, and the other one being my golem. Now going into the gameplay mechanics of how all this comes together, once you encounter a mob of enemies, the first thing you're going to do is start hitting them with your core skill to deal damage, and basic skill if you require some essence. You want to try and get the first couple of corpses to drop, which you will then automatically cast Corpse Tendrils on thanks to your Caged Heart, and Corpse Explosion will also be proccing, putting a blight on the ground which will deal shadow damage over time. Once they're grouped together, you can continue to do damage with your core skill to help finish them off. During the battle, you also need to ensure that you are using the Raised Skeleton skill on corpses to heal your minions and buff their damage by 30% every 5 seconds. Basically, with this setup, you can really focus on just using Raised Skeleton skill to buff your minions, and then your basic and core skills for helping apply damage. You're also going to get essence whenever you consume a corpse thanks to the Grim Harvest passive. The key passive I've taken for this build is Shadow Blight, which is going to buff you and your minions damage to enemies by 10% that have Shadow Blight, and every 10th time it procs, it'll increase to 22% increased damage. Now being Season 1, we are having Caged Hearts now, so the three I'm using in this build are the Brutal Heart, Decrepit Aura, which means when there's enough enemies around us, it will automatically cast Decrepify around us for 5 to 15 seconds, which is going to help us with our damage mitigation. The second one is the Sacrilegious Heart, which I talked about earlier, so it's going to automatically cast any corpse skills on our skill bar, which is Corpse Tendril and Corpse Explosion for us. It just deals 40 to 30% reduced damage. The third one, the Vicious Heart Pekenna, which means critical strikes electrically charge enemies, which will cause lightning to arc between them and other charged enemies, causing lightning damage. This is very useful because we will be grouping large amounts of enemies together, which will help this skill proc and deal damage for us. All these three hearts I came across early in the game multiple times, so they should be fairly easy to obtain to use in this build while working your way to level 50. For the Book of the Dead, I've chosen Skirmishers for their increased damage and taken the extra Skirmisher for the modifier. If you're having any issues though with generating more corpses, you can switch to Reapers once you've leveled up enough and take the Corpse Generation modifier. In terms of mages, you'll want to stick with Shadow Mages, as the shadow damage will synergize very well with the other skills and passives chosen in this build. For modifiers, take the one that has a chance to stun enemies. Now for golems, you can run all three of this build. I started out with a bone golem at first to unlock with the increased life modifier, Then I switched over to Blood Golem once that unlocked for increased damage. And finally, once you unlock the Iron Golem, I would pick that one and the modifier that allows it to do Shockwave attack for every 4th attack. This works very well with your build when you're grouping together a lot of enemies for it with Corpse Tendrils. Now in terms of aspects, this build isn't relying on all of them, but as you level up you will want to try and at least put the ones you can get from the Codex of Power on, and then just keep an eye out for the other ones. Now these are all the ones in the Codex of Power that you're going to want to be unlocking and using, and then these other ones are the ones you're going to have to look out for on loot. Now in terms of the skill tree, I have linked the build in the description, so have a look at that to see the skill distribution and any further information you want around the build in terms of aspects. Do remember to hit the like button for the video and also subscribe for more content from my channel.